scandal. And I've actually put the methods there as circular narrative. Now, the reason it's circular narrative is because in Act 1, when Mr. Burling is talking to Gerald, trying to impress Gerald, Mr. Burling jokes and says, there's a fair chance I might get a knighthood. He says, so long as we don't find ourselves in a police court or start a scandal. And then he laughs complacently. So, ha 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 ha, as long as we don't start a scandal. Now, that means that he thinks that there'll never be a scandal associated with them because they're too high up in the social hierarchy. At the end of the play, however, there has been a scandal associated with them. And it's all that Mr. Burling is concerned about is preventing it getting into the press, into the news, because it would ruin his reputation as a Burling family member. So talk about that use of circular narrative. Scandal is mentioned at the beginning as a joke. We'll never get into a scandal. And it's mentioned at the end as a real serious concern of Mr. Burling's. That's what he wants to prevent. This is also a little bit ironic because a girl has potentially died and all he's interested in is his reputation. He is not interested about anything else. Okay, you go on to the next one? Is that it? Yeah, sorry. Okay. The next one then. Mr. Burling talks about, right at the end of the play, the famous younger generation who know it all, and they can't even take a joke. So he stands there and laughs at Sheila and Eric. When Sheila and Eric are all serious at the end, he laughs at them and he says that. Okay? Now, methods that are spoken about here, again, you've got that semantic field, joke, hoax, trick, a lot of moonshine. But you've also got dramatic timing again. Because do you remember the quote where he says a man has to look after himself and then he got interrupted by the sharp ring of a front doorbell? Right at the end of the play, he gets interrupted again. The telephone rings sharply and it's an inspector on the line. So you see you've got a bit of circular narrative as well, because both times Mr. Burling is boasting or being complacent, he gets interrupted. Okay? So you've got dramatic timing in both of those quotations, and you've also got a bit of circular narrative. Every time he's at the height of, launching into one of his speeches, where he's mocking others, he gets interrupted. Okay? So great quotation. So it's careful selection of quotes and making sure that you can talk about methods linked to them. A lot of essays I read, sometimes, have got lots of random quotes in there that I think, why have you picked that quote? It's not the best quote for you to analyse. Okay, we're now going to skip then to, how long do you need? Not long, okay. We're going to skip to Sheila, which is the yellow cards. Okay, so can you please find the opening stage direction for Sheila? Okay, right. Now, my class will have heard me talk about this till I'm blue in the face. They'll know exactly what I'm going to say about pretty. Sheila is described, keyword, as being pretty in the opening stage directions. You should learn the opening stage direction for every character, okay? Very important. All you need to remember is that one word, not difficult. A method that you would talk about is juxtaposition, okay? Now, Sheila is described as pretty, but that's juxtaposed against Eva, because when the inspector comes in, the first question that Sheila asks is, pretty, question mark, so was she pretty, this girl who died? And the inspector says, yes, very pretty. Now, straight away, you've got juxtaposition of the two girls. It sets up rivalry, competition. Imagine all the girls in the room, and lads, think about the girls that you know. If you said to a girl, you're pretty, but she's very pretty, the jealousy that would cause. So, that simple use of that intensifier, very, that the inspector uses, immediately explains Sheila's jealousy in Millwoods, doesn't it? The dress shop, okay? So, easy quotes, pretty and very pretty. Method, juxtaposition of the two girls, okay? The most hurtful thing to Sheila is when Gerald also refers to Eva Smith, or Daisy Renton as he knew her, as very pretty. What, Sheila? Just pretty. Okay, so you've got all these little points that you can use to show the juxtaposition of the two girls there. Okay, so go on to the next one, thank you. Right, the next quote for Sheila that's important is this one. Stage directions. She's put the ring on admiringly in Act 1. So Gerald gives her the engagement ring, and she's admiring it. She's looking at it. Shall I use my phrase that they liked last year that I've told them? She's more interested in the bling than the ting. Okay, that's what I would say. There we go. So you can see, listen up, you can see, she's got a laugh. You can see that she's quite materialistic, proving that she's a capitalist at this stage of the play. And then later still in Act 1, she's still admiring the ring. So those adverbs there suggest, don't they, that she's very materialistic. A method that I've spoken about there, well in fact I've not, but I should have, so you can put it on there, is circular narrative. Because when she finds out about the affair, Gerald's affair with Daisy Renton, Eva Smith, she gives him the ring back. And then right at the end of the play, he tries to give her the ring back when he thinks it was all a hoax, a trick, moonshine, and a joke. Okay? So she tries to give him the ring back, and she says, no, not yet, it's too soon. So she rejects it. Now that is it's a pivotal moment in the play where she rejects the ring, because that shows that she has changed from a materialistic capitalist to more of a socialist, more of an independent woman. And you know that obviously the suffragette movement was just sort of flourishing around this time. Women got the vote in 1918, etc. So you can see that her rejection of the ring is a massive movement towards independence of women. Okay, she doesn't need a man to rely on. So again, great quotes that talk about methods that link to context. Okay, the next Sheila one then is, very quickly, okay, I know I'm to blame and I'm desperately sorry. Blame. The word blame, synonymous, that means it's the same as, technically, as the word responsibility. And responsibility is the motif of the play, it's the recurring theme. Every character in this play talks about responsibility or being responsible or not. The method that I've spoken about here at the back, she says, I'm desperately sorry. Now I would talk about juxtaposition there, so if I got a question on Sheila, I would say, Sheila admits, I'm desperately sorry. She says things like, so I'm really responsible. And she says, because I was in a furious temper. So she admits her errors. That is juxtaposed against people like Mr. Burling and Mrs. Burling, who say things like, I really can't accept any responsibility. That's Mr. Burling. Mrs. Burling says things like, she had only herself to blame. So do you see, if you get a question on Sheila, you say how she's juxtaposed against her parents, who accept no blame or responsibility. Right, I was going to look at a few more quotes from Sheila and Gerald. Haven't got time because Sir needs to finish, but listen up to me. What I'm going to say is, going through that pack, just looking at the listed methods, you might not understand what I'm referring to. So what you do is you come and see me or another English teacher and you say, right, where is that method being shown in that quote? Because I really wanted you not just to have quotes, but to have methods that you could talk about. But you may need a little bit of guidance and instruction. And obviously you've got all the characters as well, which I haven't had time to talk about. So take away. At the back as well, I forgot to say, there are 4 cards. One of them's got themes on. So you may be asked a thematic question on responsibility or the gender. Sorry, can we sit still and listen? Or the gender differences between men and women. A lot of these quotes can be used for those themes. So there's a little task, try and find 5 quotes from this pack to match the themes. There's also some information information on context at the back, just brief bits about Priestley, about World War I and World War II, so have a look at it. Right, Sir's still got something to say about the Inspector Clause exam, so sit still and stay quiet. Lovely.
So I'll try to keep this brief then, okay, because I know obviously we want to go home. So here's just an example of a question that you might be asked. So, how does Priestley present family relationships in an Inspector Clause? So, what you need to do, whatever the question is asking you for, you need to come up with 4 AO1 statements. So that means 4 different ways that you can interpret the text, okay? 4 different ways you can answer that question.